agreed upon a verdict?
Yes.
On count one, strangulation or suffocation, what is your verdict? Guilty or not guilty?
Not long ago, Stefon Diggs found himself at the center of a serious legal case involving his former personal chef, Mia Adams. And this wasn't just any dispute. The accusations were severe. Mia Adams alleged that Diggs had subjected her to strangulation and physical harm, claims that carried significant legal and personal weight. The case made its way to trial, and once Adams took the stand, several key details came to light that are worth paying close attention to.
Characterize your relationship with Mr. Diggs.
I would say it's complicated. It started out as friends. It started out as friends, became sexual, and we would meet up, hang out, and we decided I would come work for him like February of 2020.
Now, the first major detail that emerged was that the relationship between Diggs and Adams wasn't strictly professional, it was also sexual in nature. He'd hired her as his personal chef and brought her into his home in Massachusetts during his time playing there. But as the trial unfolded, Adams's credibility.
So your lawyer demanded $5.5 million from Mr. Diggs, didn't he?
Mr. Diggs offered me $100,000 to recant my statement.
That is a yes.
That is the
Your Honor,
only...
Maybe we sent her to sidebar, please.
What made things even more damaging for Adams was the revelation of an alleged extortion attempt. According to what came out at trial, she had demanded $5.5 million from Diggs. He countered with an offer of $100,000, and she turned...
Stopping off in New York for a couple of days. Asked her where she was gonna stay. She said a hotel. I'm like, girl, we friends. You don't have to stay at a hotel. You could stay at my place.
All right. Did you actually see her that night? Did she stay at your place?
Yeah.
So, did you end up seeing Miss Adams? Did she actually get in your car?
Yeah.
You picked her up from LaGuardia Airport? When she got in your car, did you notice anything out of the ordinary?
Mm-mm.
Did you notice anything about her appearance?
No.
Was there any bruising on her at that point?
No.
What were you doing once you picked Miss Adams up?
We went to go pick up my friend Tally in Queens, and we were just chilling in the car. We were just like singing and just talking.
Now this is the part I really want to address, because when this verdict came out, a lot of the reaction on X was celebratory. That's what she gets. City boy's up. He should sue her for defamation. And look, some of that sentiment may be understandable given what came out at trial, but I need you to zoom out and see the bigger picture here, because there are real consequences unfolding that aren't being talked about enough. First, Stefon Diggs has not been able to sign with an NFL. That's the trap. You extend opportunities to someone, professionally, financially, based on personal feelings rather than professional merit. And when that person feels wronged or when the relationship sours, the power dynamic you thought you had can flip instantly. And this connects to something I've talked about before. We're in an era where the lines around grooming, consent, and workplace conduct are being redrawn constantly. And here's something people don't always consider. An adult can be groomed too. Age alone doesn't eliminate vulnerability, and it doesn't eliminate accountability on both sides. The bottom line is this: protect your professional life, your income, your career, your reputation. These things take years to build and can be dismantled in a single moment of poor judgment. This is a critical point that needs to be understood clearly. This woman is nearly 30 years old, but that doesn't automatically disqualify a grooming argument in the legal landscape we're operating in today. Here's how that narrative can be constructed. She can say he gave her a job, brought her into his home, and in doing so, separated her from her support system. That's isolation, point one. And because of that isolation, she was financially and professionally dependent on him. He controlled her housing, her income, her stability. That's a power imbalance, point two. And under that framework, she can argue that the dynamic between them wasn't truly equal or voluntary. Now, it doesn't matter that the relationship was consensual from the beginning. What matters is how it's framed in the present. And even without airtight evidence, even when, as in this case, photos surfaced contradicting her timeline, and she was clearly caught in inconsistencies, the damage is already done the moment those allegations become public.
At minimum, it gives the other party enough leverage to push for a settlement, because going to court carries reputational costs that no verdict can fully repair.
And that's the uncomfortable reality men in positions of power need to sit with. Winning in court is not the same as winning in life. Diggs may have walked away without a conviction, but he's still without a contract. He's still without a team. And the narrative that is built up around him, the off-field issues, the personal controversies, the pattern of poor decisions, is exactly what NFL general managers are weighing right now. Some of them will look at his talent and acknowledge he can still perform at a high level, but then they'll ask themselves whether the distraction, the media attention, and the organizational risk that comes with signing him is worth it. And for many of them, the answer will quietly be no. That's the real cost, not the legal fees, not the trial. The cost is the doors that close without anyone ever telling you they're closing. And once that label attaches to you, it becomes the first thing people think about, regardless of what you're capable of. Think about it this way. You could be genuinely talented. You could deliver results consistently, whether that's on the field, in business, or in your industry. But if you've built a reputation for personal recklessness, ongoing controversies, poor decisions, a pattern that follows you everywhere, it becomes nearly impossible for organizations, partners, or colleagues to stand behind you publicly, not because they don't see your value, but because associating with you carries a cost they're not willing to pay. And you can push back on that all you want, but that's simply how reputation works in the real world. Here's what makes this moment particularly significant. The margin for error has always been narrow for men in the public eye. One misstep can unravel years of work. But in 2026, the way men navigate relationships, workplace dynamics, and public perception has reached a level of scrutiny that has no real precedent. The cultural conversation around gender, conduct, and accountability has shifted dramatically, and it's not just happening in America, it's a global shift.
And you see it reflected even in major institutions. The NFL, a league made up almost entirely of men, dedicates significant visibility to breast cancer awareness each season, with players wearing pink gear, ribbons, and league-wide campaigns. That's not a criticism. Awareness for any health cause is worthwhile. But the contrast is worth noting. Men's health issues receive a fraction of that same institutional attention and visibility. That imbalance reflects something broader about how male-specific struggles are prioritized or deprioritized, even within spaces that are predominantly male. The point isn't to assign blame. The point is awareness. Understanding the environment you're operating in is the first step to protecting yourself within it. The rule is simple, and it applies whether you're running your own business or working within someone else's organization. Do not mix professional relationships with personal ones. Full stop. It doesn't matter how the situation presents itself or how mutual it seems in the moment, because the moment things go sideways and you end up in a legal setting, the entire dynamic gets reframed. What felt mutual at the time can be repositioned as coercion, harm, or abuse of power. And once that narrative takes hold, it's extremely difficult to dismantle. Here's the other layer to this. There is a significant difference between getting involved with someone who has an established reputation, a career, and something tangible to protect, versus someone who has very little to lose. When both parties have reputations on the line, there's a natural incentive for discretion on both sides, but when the power and stakes are completely one-sided, the risk calculation changes entirely. Someone with nothing to lose and a grievance, real or manufactured, has very little holding them back. A lawyer can advise them to go public, to make noise, to let the story spread. And why wouldn't they? The person with the career, the brand deals, the public profile, that's the one who has to answer for it. That's the one whose sponsors start making calls. That's the one whose name trends for the wrong reasons. The other party walks away with little to no consequence. So when you're in a position of success, when you've built something worth protecting, you have to be strategic about who you allow into your personal space. Physical attraction is not a character reference. A person's background, their stability, their patterns of behavior, these things matter enormously. Because when someone has spent years making destructive decisions in their own life, disrupting yours costs them nothing. It's effortless for them. But for you, it can cost everything you've spent building.